T-117. That was the number of confirmed kills Alexandra McKinnon had as a Navy SEAL sniper. But all that changed when she traded her rifle for a spatula, became a single mom, and opened a quiet little family diner in San Diego. To the outside world, and to the cartel that moved into her neighborhood, she looked like just another struggling single mother. Easy target. Easy takeover. What they didn't see were the high-grade security cameras placed with military precision. What they missed were the subtle sweeps of her eyes, constantly scanning escape routes while she served up pancakes and coffee. What they didn't notice was how she tracked every move at her daughter's softball games without ever letting her guard down. Their biggest mistake? It wasn't trying to take over her business. It was threatening her daughter. They gave a former SEAL, someone who'd eliminated high-value targets across 4 continents, a reason to pick up her rifle again. And in the quiet suburbs of San Diego, some wars aren't won by muscle. They're won by ghosts who strike before you even know they're there. Quick pause. Where in the world are you watching from? Drop it in the comments and hit subscribe, because tomorrow's episode is something you do not want to miss. Now, back to the story. Dawn broke over San Diego's coast as Alex McKinnon made her usual morning perimeter check, a routine burned into her body from 15 years of elite training. Her daughter Claire's softball uniform hung neatly on the line, gently swaying in the breeze. The hose was still perfectly coiled, no footprints in the soil, no motion alerts overnight, too quiet. The black SUV driving past for the 3rd time that morning confirmed her instincts. Tinted windows, Mexican plates, 3 men inside, none of them subtle. They had no clue how bad they were at surveillance. Alex bent down to adjust the wind chimes, calculating sight lines and fields of fire without even thinking about it. Some habits just never die. "Mom! Have you seen my blue jacket?" Claire's voice rang out from inside, filled with that typical teenage urgency. "Coach says we gotta be early." Alex smiled. She remembered when being 5 seconds late meant death, not missing softball warm-ups. "Check the laundry room, sweetheart," she called back. "And don't forget what I told you. Always have a backup plan." "I know," Claire groaned. "You're so paranoid sometimes." If only you knew, Alex thought as the SUV passed once more. Later, the morning rush hit McKinnon's diner. Dock workers coming off night shifts, office folks grabbing breakfast. The usual crowd, same faces that had been coming since her father, Harrison, opened the place 40 years ago. Alex moved through the cafe like clockwork, every motion precise, every step giving her a view of exits, angles, and possible threats. "Order up," Harrison called from the kitchen, his voice strong despite recent health scares. "Table 5's hungry." Grace Bennett, their longtime waitress, rushed past with a pot of coffee. "Alex, those guys in the corner booth, they're asking questions about ownership and money." Alex didn't flinch. She'd clocked them the moment they walked in. Designer suits that didn't belong in this part of town. Flashy watches. One kept his jacket closed, badly hiding a weapon. "I'll handle it," she said, grabbing the plates and approaching with the friendly smile of a seasoned waitress. But every movement was calculated. Angles, distances, nearest weapon, closest exit. The man in the middle, expensive suit, cartel tattoo half hidden under his collar, gave her a hollow smile. "Miss McKinnon," he said smoothly, "Rafael Escobar. My associates and I represent a restaurant supply company. We've been speaking with local businesses about competitive pricing." Alex set the plates down like she was folding a sniper rifle. Calm, exact. "We're happy with our current suppliers, thanks." Escobar's tone shifted, soft but full of menace. "Costs are rising everywhere. Protection is expensive, insurance, health inspections, accidents, they happen, especially to people who don't plan ahead." The air turned heavier. Alex's fingers tightened ever so slightly around the tray. She could end this in 3 moves, 2 if she wanted him unconscious. But she didn't move, not yet. Claire needed a normal life. The community needed stability. "I'll talk to my father," she said coolly. "Now, can I get you anything else?" Escobar's smile disappeared. "We'll be in touch." As they left, Alex watched them climb back into the same black SUV. Officer Noah Parker walked in just as they drove off, nodding at her like always. "Everything okay, Alex?" Those guys looked serious. "Just pushy suppliers," she said, topping off his coffee, but they both knew it was more than that. The pressure in the neighborhood had started building, quietly, steadily, and Alex McKinnon was the wrong woman to underestimate. Other local businesses had started getting the same kinds of visits, and then the accidents began. Mysterious fires, failed inspections, supply trucks suddenly going missing. Anyone who refused to cooperate seemed to suffer from very sudden, very targeted misfortune. "Dad!" Alex called into the kitchen, her voice low but urgent. "We need to talk about the books." Harrison McKinnon stepped out, drying his hands on his apron. At 65, he still ruled the kitchen like the master chef he'd always been. But the lines around his eyes had deepened. "The numbers aren't improving, are they?" he asked. "We'll figure it out," Alex replied, but her brain was already racing, planning, adapting, running silent ops in her head. The cartel wasn't just knocking on doors. They were buying their way into the community, choking businesses financially until they gave in. She'd seen this playbook before in war zones where blood and bribes went hand in hand. That afternoon, Claire came bursting through the door after practice, bubbling with energy about her next game. Alex listened, smiled, nodded, all while keeping one eye on the street outside. 2 more unfamiliar vehicles had rolled through the neighborhood. Wrong posture, wrong rhythm, wrong license plates. "Mom, are you even listening?" Claire said, catching the distraction. "This is important." Alex turned to her, seeing her daughter's face, so much like her late mother's, bright, hopeful, untouched by darkness. Everything Alex had done, every sacrifice, every scar, it was all to give this girl a normal life. "Of course I'm listening," she said softly. "Now tell me more about the game plan." But when night fell over San Diego, Alex wasn't done. She did one last perimeter sweep, same as always. The rifle case in its secret compartment remained untouched, but not forgotten, cleaned, maintained, ready. Because when you've spent 15 years as one of the most lethal Navy SEALs in history, you learn the hardest truth of all. Sometimes protecting your family means becoming a predator again. Then it happened. The sound of shattering glass tore through the early morning calm. Alex was already in motion before she was even fully awake. Instincts firing, body moving on reflex. She reached the front window in time to catch 2 figures running off into the night, laughing. Across the street, the Bennett family's bakery had its front window smashed and spray-painted in angry red letters, "Pay up or burn." 3 weeks had passed since Rafael Escobar's visit. 3 weeks of watching the cartel tighten its grip. More new faces on corners, more intimidation in the shadows, more calculations, more restraint. Grace Bennett stood outside her family's shop, shoulders heavy. Her husband Tom swept up broken glass while their teenage son nailed boards over the smashed window. Alex crossed the street, keeping her posture relaxed. The concerned neighbor, not the trained killer she really was. "Grace, I'm so sorry," she said, gently touching her friend's arm. "Did you call the police?" "What's the point?" Grace muttered, eyes filled with anger and fear. "Same as that random inspection that almost shut us down last week. Same as our supply delivery getting canceled without warning. They're not hiding it anymore. They're sending a message." Alex helped sweep while her eyes stayed sharp, tracking the neighborhood waking up. The black SUV made its usual slow pass. New faces lingered on corners, pretending to be on their phones, pretending to belong. "Mom?" Claire called from their porch. "What happened to the bakery?" "Just some vandals, honey," Alex said gently. "Head inside and get ready for school." But Claire didn't move. 14 years old and sharper than most adults. "Things are getting weird around here," she said. "First Mrs. Wilson's restaurant had that fire, then the Garcias got robbed. Now this?" Alex guided her inside, past reinforced doors and hidden sensors she'd installed long ago. "Sometimes neighborhoods go through rough patches," she said. "It'll pass." Claire gave her a look, the kind that sees right through masks. "You're doing that thing again, where you get super calm and serious, like when Tommy Harris's dad got drunk and tried to fight you at the diner. What's really going on?" Before Alex could answer, Harrison's voice echoed from the kitchen. "Alex, health inspector's back. Says there's another anonymous complaint." The inspector was already writing up violations when Alex walked in. Sharp suit, shiny shoes, Rolex that screamed Cartel connection. Harrison's jaw was clenched with frustration as the man listed off supposed issues. "These upgrades will cost thousands," the inspector said with a fake sympathetic smile. "Unless you'd like to explore alternative compliance. I know some people who could help finance the improvements." Alex cut him off before he could say more. "We'll handle it through proper channels," she said, her voice calm, but carrying just enough threat to make the man blink. After he left, Harrison slammed a pot onto the stove. 15 years I've run this kitchen, not one violation. Now we're a health hazard. They're not even trying to hide it. Alex exhaled slowly. "Dad, I've been thinking. Maybe we should consider—" "We're not selling," Harrison snapped, but then his voice softened. "Your mother and I built this place from nothing. It's not just a diner. It's Claire's future." The next morning, the diner filled with the usual breakfast crowd, but one new face walked through the door, and Alex's instincts lit up like a flare. Detective Jack Morrison sat at the counter, newspaper in hand, looking like any other tired regular grabbing a coffee break, but Alex saw through him immediately. His posture was too casual to be real. His eyes, sharp and methodical, scanned the diner with the kind of awareness only years of field work could teach. "Coffee?" she offered, already clocking the faint bulge of a shoulder holster beneath his jacket and the military precision in his movement. "Thanks," Morrison said, accepting the cup. "Heard you might be having some supplier issues." His tone was easy, but his gaze was surgical. He knew more than he let on. "A lot of that going around lately," he added. "Businesses getting pressured, accidents, mysterious ones." "Nothing we can't handle," Alex replied, cool and composed, even as her mind ran background checks on his posture, speech rhythm, and watch placement. Former military, likely Marines. Now working some interagency investigation. Surveillance patterns didn't lie. The lunch rush brought in Kate Sullivan, a local community organizer and former attorney, the kind of woman who didn't wait for heroes. She built movements. She dropped a folder on the counter thick with photos, reports, timestamps. "3 more hit last night," she said quietly. "They're accelerating, bolder. Cops say it's not enough to connect the dots, but come on. Look at this." Alex flipped through the photos while pouring coffee, her brain mapping everything. Patterns, pressure points, timelines. The cartel wasn't random. They were precise, strategic. They used fear, money, and silence to take over one business at a time. By afternoon, the escalation was undeniable. 4 cartel soldiers sat down for lunch. Concealed weapons poorly hidden, phones out, snapping shots of the diner's layout like they weren't even trying to hide it. Claire texted her mom. "Some weird men are watching softball practice." Harrison reported their food supplier had just doubled their prices. No reason given. Later that evening, Grace Bennett showed up after closing time, her face pale, her hands shaking. "Just pay them," she pleaded, "before someone gets hurt. Tom's talking about selling the bakery, leaving town." "Running won't solve anything," Alex said quietly, cleaning tables, eyes flicking to the street. "Sometimes you have to stand your ground." After Claire was safely asleep upstairs, Alex slipped into the basement. Behind a false wall, her old tactical gear waited. Armor, comms, weapons, everything clean, oiled, ready. Her fingers moved over the gear like they were greeting old friends. This wasn't paranoia. This was math. The cartel followed a pattern. First came intimidation, then sabotage, then the examples. Violent, public. Businesses would fold. Families would flee. And the entire block would become a money laundering front with a coffee machine out front. Alex had helped dismantle operations like this overseas. But this wasn't Kabul. This was home. This was where Claire played softball, where Harrison still baked apple pies, where Grace Bennett's kids ran barefoot through sprinklers in the summer. Then her phone buzzed. A single text from Morrison. "We need to talk. Evidence of major cartel laundering op. Multiple agencies involved. Watch your back." She deleted the message instantly, but her decision had already been made. She could maintain her cover, pretend this was still manageable, keep up the routine for Claire's sake. Or she could stop hiding who she really was, a hunter trained to take down predators who thought no one could stop them. And then, as if to answer her decision, glass shattered again across the street. The bakery. Alex was already moving, because sometimes protecting peace means preparing for war, and nobody prepares like a SEAL. She ran her final equipment check with mechanical precision, not just to be ready, but to send herself a message. You're back in the fight. Because Alex McKinnon didn't earn her reputation by ignoring danger. She earned it by eliminating it. Friday nights at McKinnon's Diner were usually warm, familiar, families with sticky menus, teens fresh from football games. But tonight felt different. The laughter was forced, conversations were quiet, and 3 men had been sitting in the corner booth for over 2 hours, watching, not talking. They weren't customers, they were enforcers. Alex wiped down tables slowly, staying in character, the friendly diner owner, while watching their movements. Shoulder holsters under leather jackets, poor concealment, hot night, wrong clothes, wrong energy, dangerous amateurs. The kind who shoot first and lie later. She approached with her usual calm. "Your coffee's cold," she said. "Can I get you something else?" The one she'd mentally labeled Scarface smiled without humor, a jagged scar running down his cheek like a warning label. "Just enjoying the atmosphere," he said. "Shame if anything ever happened to such a nice family place." Behind the counter, Claire was loading silverware into bins, trying to act normal, trying not to notice the wolves circling. Alex pretended to be busy wiping down the counter, but her eyes were elsewhere, on her daughter. Claire had been quietly reading newspaper articles about cartel activity lately, asking questions that were just a little too careful, a little too informed. And now she was watching Scarface and his crew with the same kind of quiet intensity her mother had spent years trying to hide. "Mom!" Claire called out, her voice light, too casual. "Coach Brooks called? Something about next week's practice schedule?" Alex's head turned just slightly, and she understood immediately. That phrase wasn't about softball. It was a coded warning they'd invented years ago, disguised as a fun mother-daughter game. It meant someone was watching the diner, right now. She glanced through the front window. 2 more cartel soldiers across the street pretending to check their phones. "Tell him I'll call him back," Alex replied, the code for message received. As she poured coffee, her mind calculated 5 hostiles, likely all armed. Civilian-rich environment, multiple approach vectors, not ideal. The bell over the door chimed. Detective Jack Morrison entered, his movements calm but purposeful, eyes alert, taking in every angle of the room. He picked a seat that gave him clear sight lines to both the corner booth and the street. "Evening, Alex," he greeted, measured. She poured him coffee without a word. He didn't need to order. "Popular place tonight," he noted, casually watching Scarface's crew. "Some customers overstay their welcome," she replied. Scarface's team noticed Morrison. They tensed. Cops always throw off their rhythm, but they still had the numbers, and they weren't afraid to show it. Then Harrison appeared from the kitchen, eyes burning with frustration. "Alex, they're shutting us down," he said tightly. "Health department just called. Emergency license suspension. Effective immediately." At the corner booth, the enforcers broke into open, smug laughter. Alex didn't flinch, but her grip on the coffee pot tightened. One quick move, and she could scald Scarface in the eyes, disable his partner, disarm a third. But not here. Not with Claire in the room. Not with bystanders in the crossfire. "Everyone out," she announced firmly, voice controlled. "Health department orders, we're closing early." The regulars picked up on the tension. They paid fast and left faster. Claire began her closing routine, movements deliberate, the kind of calm only someone trained could pull off. Scarface stood. "Shame about the health code," he said with a smirk. "Our offer still stands. Let us help. Make sure there are no more violations." Morrison set his cup down with deliberate calm. "Everything all right here, Alex?" "Just a business discussion," she answered smoothly, but she noted how Scarface's men had shifted, casually covering exits. Classic intimidation tactic, poor execution, amateurs with guns. "You might want to take that discussion elsewhere," Morrison said. His tone was friendly. His hand hovered near his concealed weapon. "Place is closed." Tension hung thick in the air, ready to snap. Alex positioned herself between Claire and the cartel soldiers. She could take them, their body language gave away everything, but doing so would blow her cover and raise more questions than answers. Scarface checked his watch, then smiled. "Another time then, but think about our offer." "That suspension won't lift itself." They left slow, cocky, exchanging subtle hand signals as they exited. They'd be back, and next time, they wouldn't be playing games. "You should file a report," Morrison said, lowering his voice. "I can get the right people involved." "No reports," Alex said sharply. "We handle this ourselves." Claire reappeared from behind the counter, holding something in her hand. "Mom, I found this under table 12. It was a bug. Small, cheap, Chinese-made surveillance tech. Internet trash. But the message was loud and clear. "We're watching you." "They're watching everyone," Harrison muttered, his fists clenched. "First the health department, now this?" Alex crushed the device in her palm. "They're probing," she said calmly. "Testing responses. Looking for weak spots." Her voice had that tone again, the one that used to guide elite ops teams through firefights on foreign soil, the one that meant war was coming. "But they just made a mistake," she added. "They chose the wrong neighborhood." Later that night, long after the last customer had gone and the diner sat in silence, Alex met Kate Sullivan in the empty front room. The community organizer spread a series of photographs across the counter. Cartel movements, targeted businesses, suspected laundering fronts. "They're accelerating," Kate said. "Not just here, all up the coast. Real estate, politics, small business. It's a full takeover, one quiet bribe at a time." Alex did a sweep while Kate spoke, checking for more bugs, habits hardwired from years in the field. And as she studied the images, one thing became clear. The cartel wasn't just using fear. They were using structure, a system, a shadow empire built brick by brick, starting with neighborhoods like hers. "There's a town hall tomorrow," Kate added. "Business owners, community leaders, we're putting our cards on the table, united front." "They'll retaliate," Alex warned. "They already are." Tom Bennett's son got jumped walking home from school. The police called it a random mugging, but everyone knew the truth. It was a message. Cooperate, or else. And for Alex McKinnon, that was the final straw. She'd spent years hiding who she was to protect Claire's normal life. But normal was already gone, and sometimes keeping the peace means confronting those who are trying to burn it down. "I need everything you have on their key players," she told Kate, her voice low and focused. "Planning something?" Kate asked, cautious. "No," Alex replied, eyes locked forward. "Just remembering who I used to be." Because Alex hadn't spent 15 years eliminating high-value targets in global hot zones just to sit by while thugs dismantled her neighborhood. She knew what came next. She'd seen it. She'd fought it. And now, it was coming here. Some predators stalk the weak. Others go hunting for those predators. The next day, the community center buzzed with nervous energy. Business owners, residents, shopkeepers, all filing in, filling up rows of folding chairs. Kate Sullivan stood at the front, presenting evidence of a quiet war most were too afraid to admit was happening. Alex took a seat near the back exit, scanning the room, mapping faces, noting body language. The cartel had eyes here, She could feel it. "We can't let fear decide what happens next," Kate said, spreading out crime scene photos like evidence in a trial. The Bennett's Bakery, Wilson's Pharmacy, the Garcia family shop, these aren't isolated events. This is organized, systemic pressure. We have to stand together. Alex's eyes snapped to the side door as it opened. 3 men entered, hands in jacket pockets, movement too precise. Not the usual street thugs, these were trained, professionals. Tom Bennett rose to speak, his voice cracked with pain and anger. "My son was attacked, broken ribs, broken arm. They call it random violence, but we know what this is." Then came the gunfire. 2 loud cracks into the ceiling. Plaster rained down. Chaos erupted, screams, people diving under chairs. The 3 newcomers took control, covering exits, corralling the crowd. "This meeting is over," the lead enforcer said coldly. "Go home, forget it happened. Next time we don't aim at the ceiling." Alex didn't move. She was ice. Their coordination was solid, but flawed. Sloppy angles, blind spots, mistakes a real operator wouldn't make. She could end it right there. But not with so many civilians packed into one room. Not with Claire somewhere in this building. Across the room, Detective Morrison made a move, badge in hand, but Alex caught his eye, gave a fractional shake of her head. Not here. Not now. The crowd dispersed fast, murmuring and shaken. Kate remained, fists clenched on the podium. "This proves everything," she said, her voice steady but fierce. "You can't scare a community forever." The enforcer gave a cold smile. "Brave words. Hope your insurance is paid up." Alex stepped in quickly, her hand on Kate's arm. "Not now," she whispered. Some battles require different tactics. That night, back at the diner, Claire helped with closing while Alex reviewed their bleeding finances. The health code suspension was doing exactly what it was designed to: starve them out. "Mom," Claire said cautiously, "I found something weird in the basement today." Alex's heart skipped. "Where?" "Behind the old boxes," Claire said. "Looked like metal, had a Navy insignia." Alex kept her face neutral. "Just some old family things. Your grandfather served, remember?" "Yeah," Claire said slowly. "But this looked newer. And there was a photo. You were in uniform, tactical gear. There was writing on the back. One of the guys called you Ghost." Before Alex could answer, Harrison entered, his face pale. "They're seizing the building," he said, voice hollow. "The health department says we need $250,000 in renovations before we can reopen." "That's impossible," Claire cried. "We just passed inspection last month." Alex looked down at the table. "It's not about health codes," she said quietly. "It's about making examples." Just then the bell above the door rang. Morrison walked in, expression grim. "I've got something you need to see." He laid down a stack of surveillance photos. Cartel stash houses, money laundering fronts, gun shipments. "This goes deeper than a neighborhood shakedown," he said. "They're using businesses like yours to move product, wash money, buy power. This is infrastructure." "You're building a RICO case," Alex said without thinking, scanning the layout. Morrison raised an eyebrow. "That's a pretty specific guess." "I watch a lot of crime shows," she replied smoothly, but her mind was already spinning. They weren't just pressuring shop owners. They were building a network, quiet, permanent. Later that night, after Claire and Harrison were asleep, Alex returned to the basement. She knelt down where Claire had found the box. Inside, resting under the false floorboard, was the silver star she'd earned in a mission so classified it didn't officially exist. Alongside it, a folded uniform, a photo, and the name they'd once whispered through comms in war zones. Ghost. Alex McKinnon was done hiding. After years as one of Naval Special Warfare's most lethal snipers, known only as Ghost, she had built a quiet life running a diner and raising her daughter. But when the cartel moved in, threatening her community, her family, and everything she fought to protect, Alex had no choice but to step back into the shadows. Grace Bennett's surveillance footage showed suited professionals casing her bakery. Not thugs, but operators. Kate Sullivan reported being followed home. And when Tom Bennett's son was attacked, it became clear this wasn't intimidation anymore. It was escalation. Alex retrieved her hidden gear, tactical equipment, weapons, surveillance tools, all kept in perfect condition. She began gathering intel, mapping cartel movements, identifying money laundering fronts and distribution hubs. They thought they were hunting sheep. They'd wandered into a wolf's den. Her first strike was surgical, dismantling a cartel money house, leaving no fatalities but a clear message. As panic spread through the criminal ranks, they brought in Gabriel Cruz, a former Special Forces operative, deadly, efficient, and tasked with eliminating her. But Alex was ready. When Cruz's team cornered civilians during a softball game, she moved with lethal grace, disabling multiple operatives before they could react. Her identity was no longer a secret. Her daughter now knew who she truly was and why she had trained her for years without explanation. As the cartel tightened its grip, Alex disrupted their operations with surgical precision, ambushing supply routes, securing hostages, and exposing corrupt officials with help from Kate, Morrison, and a growing resistance. But the cartel's response escalated. Eduardo Vargas, known as the Executioner, arrived with a team of elite mercenaries. Their goal? Break the resistance and eliminate Alex. They launched a full-scale siege. But Alex, Claire, Harrison, and a neighborhood of hidden allies stood their ground. The battle reached its peak as Vargas turned Alex's own diner into his command post. She infiltrated it and dismantled his team from within, one silent takedown at a time. Their final confrontation was brutal, two ghosts in a lethal duel. But Alex was fighting for something bigger, her daughter, her community, her legacy. She didn't just defeat Vargas, she exposed the entire cartel operation. Federal forces moved in, corruption fell, and Claire, trained by the very best without even knowing it, helped lead the neighborhood's defense. Because in the end, Alex McKinnon wasn't just a retired operator, she was a mother, a protector, and she had one final lesson for the predators who came too close. Some ghosts are best left undisturbed.